Welcome everybody. It's time for another talk here. We're doing at Lightbox Expo. I'm Sergio Paez. I am a story artist and director, and I welcome you to this chat. Hopefully you guys have been having fun during this Lightbox weekend. I'd like to hear all about it. This chat, we're gonna be talking about technical stuff. Okay, this is the stuff that's gonna get you into visual storytelling. And I'm gonna break down what kind of equipment you need, what kind of software you need, what kind of tricks and tools that we need. I get a lot of questions about this, and I'd like to answer them here. So let's have a really good discussion about that today. Now, welcome to my studio. I'm gonna show you a lot of what I use as my equipment. You can see my Cintiq monitor here, and I have a lot of other cool stuff and gadgets that we're gonna be talking about today. Not all of it's mine, so it might seem like I have a lot of equipment, but I have a lot of borrowed stuff here too, okay? So big welcome to everybody. I'm going to let people trickle in here today. And as we warm up, I want to give a couple of announcements. So hopefully you guys have seen some of the stuff that we've been doing this weekend at Lightbox Expo. You can check out that link that's on the screen right now, which is pro.storyboardart.org/LBX 2020, and there you can see the lineup of the talks that we've had, and you can even see the replay. So if you can click on some of the talks, I'm sure you guys are busy checking out other really cool panels that are happening at Lightbox here. And so you can look on our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook, and you can see the replays of the talks that we've done. We just got through a really fabulous roundtable talk with some awesome story professionals. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, so the other announcement I should say, and let me put this up on screen for everybody. All right, everybody's just jumping in here. Let's bring this up. I've been talking a lot about this, is the Drawing and Portfolio Challenge. And I brought that up on screen so you guys can see the link. We have had hundreds and hundreds of artists participate in this Drawing and Portfolio Challenge. And I should give you an update. I am just waiting to jump on Facebook and answer all of the people who have submitted work. So if you are in the Drawing and Portfolio Challenge and you're waiting for some comments, we have our community mentors that are helping out there. And also, I plan to get personally on there and look at the stuff that you're doing. That's all part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to network and get everything to the pro level to improve our portfolios. So these are 5 lessons that are key things that I think you're going to need in your portfolio. And we've been talking a lot about portfolios this whole weekend in a bunch of our talks. But I encourage you guys to check that out, sign up, and that's bit.ly/storyboard challenge. That's what you want to be doing. Check that out. And you can see that also on our Lightbox 2020 landing page too for the events that we're doing here as well. So now I'll talk a little bit about the mentorship as well, but this is the other, that's the other big course that we have just opened up for registration. But this one is where you can get a lot of the info that we're going to be doing this weekend. We have another talk this evening, which is going to be really fun. We have a co-panelist that's going to come join me on that as well. And then tomorrow, I hope you guys mark this in your calendars. This phenomenal artist, Nick Sung, who's an ex-Pixar artist and is going to be my co-instructor on the mentorship program, is going to be joining us tomorrow on Sunday. And we're going to have an awesome discussion. So if you guys are thinking about the mentorship, maybe you already signed up for the mentorship and you want to meet Nick and pick his brain, ask some questions about that, that's what he's there for. And we're going to be tackling a lot of just story-related topics tomorrow in that talk as well. All right, let me get into this. And the reason I wanted to show you my studio setup is basically to kind of give you an idea of what you're going to need to get started with visual storytelling. I've gotten a lot of questions this whole week as we've opened up the Drawing and Portfolio Challenge is, can you still get by with drawing on pencil and paper and then scanning that in, or maybe taking some pictures? Yeah, I think that's good for the course. That's good to show people. It's definitely, those are really important skills that you want to have. But I think the competition and the industry is so competitive now that you really want to have a digital setup, some kind of digital setup. And those things are actually not as expensive as you think, okay? So I'm going to give you the basic rundown of what you need. I'm going to go through some software, and then we're going to open up for questions, and I'll try and make this a little more organic, and we're going to leave a good period of time for questions towards the end of this talk. So let me get through some of the tips that I think you guys need to get started. So first off, you need some kind of setup to draw. Now I have my Cintiq monitor, I'll get to that in a second, but I do want to show you a couple of other kind of starter things that you can do. This is a Wacom companion Cintiq. I forgot what they call the new version now, but can you guys see that? Yeah, somewhat. This one, as you can see, has got some mileage on it. You can see the scrapes and like kind of the scratches that I have in the screen. I mean, that's all stuff that you can buff out. It's not a big deal. I still use this, by the way. It's got to be like 5 or 6 years old. And this is a portable laptop computer. It runs Windows, and it also has a touch screen on it, so you can touch and do do what you need for your programs. I use this a lot for going on location, doing kind of location storyboard work, or if I'm out of my studio, I'll take this. I brought this in a couple times to Lucasfilm just because I had started on a sequence on this computer, and then I was doing some sketches and things there, and then I transferred that to the main programs that we were using in Lucasfilm. So this is a nice portable setup. If you bought one of these things new, I think they're close to like $2,500, or it's really expensive. Okay, I think that's pretty expensive. Now, a couple advantages with this: it's portable, and I think the newer models are lighter and even more portable than this. The pressure sensitivity is excellent. Depending on what kind of computer power you get, you can get like an i7 chip and stuff like that, which is really good. You want to get as much RAM as possible on these things. But one tip for you guys, I would recommend also looking into used equipment. If you're just starting out and you're kind of, strapped for cash and that kind of thing, you can always get something used, all right? And like this one, if I were to buy this used, I probably wouldn't pay more than $500 for it, just because, because it's got, like I said, it's got the mileage on it. It's probably not as fast as the newer versions. And, these things get updated often enough that that you can wait around and get the previous generations of things, and it still works fine. You can still do a lot of really professional level work. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, this is a Microsoft Surface Pro. Okay, this is a tablet PC, and I find this one actually a really awesome solution. This is not my computer. I'm borrowing this, but it comes with a pen. Let me see if I can show you this. It's kind of reflecting the background, but basically it's a nice portable tablet. It comes with like this kind of snap-on keyboard here. So you can use this as a touchscreen kind of tablet. It's great for like, just taking notes and writing things. Like, am I doing this right? Let me see if I can show you like this kind of stuff. But it's also a full PC. It runs Windows, okay? So that's really good because you can put all the programs that I normally use, like Photoshop, I use Autodesk Sketchbook, Toon Boom, that kind of stuff. I can put that on this machine. And this is also an expensive computer if you bought this new, that, I think these things run like maybe $1,500 to $2,000 on, the higher end models. And again, I would recommend this is like, I think this is the Microsoft Surface Pro 4. I think the new one is like a 6. So they go up in numbers as the new generations come out, but it has like a kickstand. It's a really just nice and convenient computer too. Great for traveling. Like if I were to get this, if I were to get a new computer nowadays, let me just kind of see if I can set this up and show you guys. If I were to get a new computer nowadays that's portable, I would probably go with the Surface Pro, just because it's so slick. It's like really lightweight. I just love the design of this thing. I'm a real fan of this computer. Okay, and then let's see, how does this pen go on? It kind of just like magnetizes to the side of this thing. So the pressure sensitivity is pretty good as well. And so I would recommend that. And if you can find a used version, again, you're going to save yourself some money that way. So that's a good portable version to do storyboards. I got one more for you here too. This is just a normal Wacom tablet. This is like your standard just tablet add-on to your computer. And this is one thing, it doesn't have the screen. You actually have to, have a different screen. You'd be drawing on this and kind of looking at the monitor and drawing, right? So that one is a little more old school. It's a little more like, I know a lot of concept designers that still use this thing. They prefer, just because they got used to like the tablet and they're like looking at the computer, but they're drawing here. I really like the fact that the Cintiq monitor, you can draw on it and it feels like it's another, like an animation disc, or you're drawing on pencil and paper. But this is totally fine. If you have nothing else and you just have a desktop computer, I think you can pick up one of these for a real good deal. I think less than is like $100 or $200. In fact, the same thing I would recommend here is you go with like a used version if you're just starting out. This is probably the cheapest thing you can get that will do the job. Essentially, like for let's assume that you can get a used version that's pretty good for $100. Plug that into your computer and you're ready to go that same day. Okay. Now this is another fancy tool here. This is the iPad Pro By the way, thanks, Mike, for letting me use your your equipment. Came out great for this talk. Okay, this is the iPad Pro, and I don't know what size this is, but it looks like a 10-inch. It's also got the Apple Pen. Come on, baby. Here we go. There it is. So you got the Apple Pen, which is a lot of artists I know swear by this, and you know, I would actually, this looks a little bit small for me. I might get the larger size version to do some work, but using this with Procreate, the feel of it is really, really great. The only downside for me is that it doesn't have the full programs. Like, you know, there's like an app version of Photoshop and there's an app version of Sketchbook Pro, Sketchbook from Autodesk. Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, I don't think is on the iPad yet that I know of. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong there. But again, you could also probably get a used version of this, and using the Apple Pen, which is an awesome, really cool pressure sensitivity, the feel of this is really, really slick. So that's one version there. Although, you know, iPad brand new, that's also pretty expensive. It's like the price of a laptop computer. So you might want to think about that. To me personally, I prefer a fully functioning laptop computer because you got a USB port, you can plug in an external drive, you can, you know, maybe get an HDMI port and have like a secondary monitor there. I think you can do that with the iPad. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. Maybe you guys have seen this already, so you can give us some tips on that as well. All right, let's go to the next thing that I would recommend. This is the beefy version. This is the Cintiq, and let me bring down my windows here, and I'll bring up something that looks a little more artistic. This is Sketchbook Pro. I'm sorry, Sketchbook. I always get that confused. But this is the full Cintiq monitor. This one is also a couple years old. I would say, when did I get this thing? I would almost say it's like 4 or 5 years old. It's the 24-inch version. It also has touch, so I could draw with my finger if I wanted to. I sometimes keep that off because it kind of interferes sometimes with, you know, with my palm on the screen drawing and stuff. I usually just use this as the pen. I have it connected to an arm so I can move this around and set up my desk the way I want to. And I have a pretty decent desk setup with, I got, you know, the keyboard underneath. I have a second monitor. I think you can see a piece of that in the background. And this is connected to a pretty beefy computer. I have a, you know, it's also a couple years old now, but I have a gaming computer that's got like an i7 chip, you know, quad core, all this kind of thing. I think I have 16 gigabytes of RAM for you techie guys out there, and I have a pretty beefy graphics card that I can run virtual reality stuff and also edit and, you know, compile animatics and things that I need to do. I can also do 3D with that kind of graphics card, and I do that from time to time. So I'm always working on kind of high-res video projects, and that way I need to make sure I have at least a decent video card, and that's connected to a pretty heavy desktop gaming computer. Now, one recommendation to get these things and to buy these things, if you're in the United States, my place of choice to buy this stuff, and I was recommended, a friend of mine recommended this, is to get it at Costco. So those of you guys who know Costco, I'm a big fan there because they offer a really awesome guarantee. I think I get like 2 years guarantee, and I got the credit card, so now I get a 4-year guarantee on anything that I buy there, equipment and that kind of stuff. And the prices are pretty good. So they're really, really competitive. And so that, I got my gaming computer there. Wacom Cintiq, you have to get this from the company. And, you know, second monitor I also got from Costco as well. So if those things break, for example, if my monitor would go, my, you know, secondary monitor would go out on me, I can take it back and they'll replace it for me. Their guarantee is really awesome. What else can I tell you about the equipment stuff? I do have like a 42-inch secondary monitor that I've hooked up to my system here. And that one is just like a, what is it, an LCD screen, I believe it is. So it's a regular TV, but it can play, you know, with the HDMI port, it's a 4K TV, and it you know, it works great for my computer doing editing and having it as a second monitor. Now you can get as crazy fancy as you want with any of these things. My setup, you know, probably costs a significant amount, you know, especially if you're starting out. It's probably not something you need. I don't recommend that because it's overkill. But, you know, I saved up some money, and this is a professional tool that I use every day for my work. So it really does pay for itself. It's like, you know, it's like a work equipment that you really need to get by. So that's something, it's an investment that you're making. If you're strapped for cash and you're just starting, I highly recommend you get something used, or get like a really, you know, streamlined version of any of the suggestions that I have here. So that's what I wanted to show you for equipment. So let me do this real quick. I'm going to turn my screen off and readjust my setup, and I'm gonna share my screen and show you exactly what kind of programs I recommend. So give me a brief second as I do that, and we'll get this going. Okay. And screen share, and here it is. Okay, cool. So now this is Autodesk Sketchbook. So you've seen me do a bunch of demos on here. I like this because it has a timeline feature on there now, and that is really great. So if let me do this, you know, a little bit better. So let's say I got a guy, yay, stick figure guy, yay, and then I can go ahead and then create a new a frame, essentially. Now I see what's there before me, and I can let me do something else, you know, squiggly line, and then let's go to another one, and this one is going to be whatever. I'm going to actually draw some kind of panel and a house, and there we go. You know, simple, that kind of thing. And then now I can flip back from all of these. So you see how you can create a sequential art in this program. Autodesk Sketchbook is free. So that's a really cool thing that you can download and use right away. That's one recommendation for doing storyboards. The next one that you guys have probably seen a lot of is Toon Boom Storyboard Pro. Now this is version 6. I know they have updated ones. I haven't installed that on my computer yet. I do have this subscription plan. And this is also a really cool program because you can create animatics with this. I pulled up a sequence that I did for Lucasfilm, and this was on Star Wars Resistance. And so let me play it for you and see how if you guys can see that. Yeah. So there's I don't think there's audio here. There's a little bit of audio at the end, but anyway, there's a little bit of like 3D background captures that you can see there. And then over top of that, I drew on a couple of these layers. And then you can export these things really easily as an animatic or as individual storyboard panels. One recommendation I've been telling people all weekend, oh, there is some audio on this. In fact, let me turn that down a little bit. At any rate, I've been telling people all weekend that if you export your images, I'm not a fan of like the title safe and like the templates that Storyboard Pro actually exports. Turn all that stuff off and just export the actual frame. I want to see the panel. That's really all you need to get stuff done. And it continues with a little war action. Star Wars, right? Okay, the next program that I want to show you is Photoshop. And Photoshop, I did a video showing people how to set up Photoshop for doing storyboards. And I use the timeline and the layer features. That's mainly my go-to thing. And like you can see, I've set up a couple layers here. It's nothing special. I'm not doing an actual sequence or anything. But I have things set up with action commands that it takes a while to set things up. So if you're interested in that, we can pass you the video link of how to do it. Now, if you're in the drawing and portfolio challenge on lesson 1, I give you guys all my presets and action commands. So you can, if you go to that course, you can see that and download that and install that yourself on Photoshop. And you can adjust those to your own liking if you want. That's really what you should be doing. One cool thing that I think people get a kick out of is, let me get a new layer, and I'm going to draw on this. Let me turn on the background for a second. Oh, and then, anyway, I'll do this let me make this background white. Okay, so I'm just scribbling here, back to the brush. Wait, change my color. There it is. Okay, so here I'm squiggling line. I have an action command to give me a blue line pencil. So, oops, I did that on the wrong layer. Haha. Okay, but at any rate, the idea there is that that it gives me a blue line, and let me try that again and see if it's going to work for me. There. So hopefully you see that. Let me undo. Okay, let me try that again. Can you see it? Lots of squiggly lines here. I have a button that automatically gives you a blue line layer. Okay, you see that? And so now I go over that with a dark, with a dark And let me make the size a little bit bigger with a dark pen, okay? And that way you can just turn off the blue line. So that's just one action command that I can set up in Photoshop. I have an easier way of doing that in a program called TV Paint. This is one that I'm a real big fan of. It's really popular in Europe. And this sequence that I have here, this is from the Scripts and Animatics course that some of you guys might be familiar with. And let me just scrub through this a little bit, and you can see what that's all about. This program, look, like in the middle, you can see the frame, and it's got the background and then everything that I drew in there. But then check out the layering. I really go to town when it comes to these layers. I usually have hundreds of layers inside of my TV Paint program. I treat every grouping of layers. So you can see like it's going from left to right. You see how this block here, and then all of a sudden there's a step up to the next few layers here. So each one of those blocks and the step up is a different shot. And I'll use as many layers as I need in that shot, and it just keeps going in like a step up fashion. That's the way I use it for TV Paint. And I really like that because you can have the whole sequence in one file, and then I can do a background layer, a foreground layer, a middle ground layer. And the tools in here are so cool to use. So let me go to the end and I'll show you what I mean with that. Like for example, I can I have all these action buttons set up. I can create a new layer, and let me move that to another block here. And then I'll go in with some of my favorite brushes and I'll change the color. And there, so, and then, you know, a lot of the action commands that I set up in Photoshop come from my method, my workflow in TV Paint. So I just erase the canvas there. I can also, you know, do squiggly lines and automatically make it a blue line, and then go over that, you know, with a cleanup, right? That's how you would, you know, go through these things really fast. One thing I really love too is this has a fill tool. If you double click on the tool, you can just start filling in shapes really quickly. So this works awesome for doing shadows and things like that. Now, I have an older version of TV Paint, so I'm sure the newer version has a lot more slick features to it. But, you know, once I know something, it works for me, you know, I don't feel like I need to upgrade that much. So there you go. So that's the software stuff. And let me stop the screen share and we'll get to some of the other tips that I have for you as far as tools. All right. Hopefully this is making sense, right? That you guys used any of these tools? Hopefully, you know, this is not something completely new to you. Now, the other thing I would recommend is the file delivery systems that you're going to be using for your images. You can use things as simply as Dropbox. So I think you should all be familiar with like Dropbox.com, even Box.com, which is another service. They're competitors of Dropbox. That's one way to upload files and just send them to a client. And it's really easy to share things and give access to folders. I find that really, really valuable. And the price is really reasonable for the amount of storage that they give you. So for us 2D artists, I think that's a wonderful deal. And you guys should check that out and look into it, okay? So cool. Now let me see what else you guys are getting into. I also want to know if you guys are doing 3D, because I do want to mention that previs and 3D animation in combination with 3D story and just animatics in general, that's becoming more and more popular. Now, a 3D setup is pretty similar to what I've shown you here. The only difference is you're probably using more of your mouse, and then I actually use my Cintiq when I'm working in Maya or Blender. That's another program that's really popular, and Blender's free. It's great. You can draw in there and actually create, you know, 3D animatics and 3D previs. So we were talking that a little bit earlier in the previous roundtable discussion with my buddies, and Vaughn, you know, Director Vaughn Ross there is gonna show me some insider tricks for Blender. So I can't wait to hear that, because you can do a lot with some of these programs. Really what happens is you kind of have to become a power user to the technology here. Now, I will say that don't be intimidated by the tools and the tech, okay? It's really actually very easy nowadays to pick up a program. And if you can use your cell phone, if you can use your smartphone, right? I got mine right here. I sometimes draw with this thing too. If I'm bored and in you know, waiting in line somewhere and I don't have a sketchbook, I'll use my phone with the Autodesk Sketchbook app. You can get that on your, you know, on your phone. At any rate, if you can use that, you can pretty much pick up any of these software applications, and because they're not that difficult. And the one thing that I recommend just kind of universally is that if you know Photoshop, if you know the interface in Photoshop and just the basic layering tools and the brush tools and basic too. I'm not talking about how sophisticated you can get with like, you know, layer comps or like doing, you know, all kinds of filters that, you know, you'll get into that later on eventually. But just the basic stuff and understanding where the interface is and how to export files, then that's all you need. It really is, because what we're doing as storytellers is trying to communicate an idea, and it doesn't have to be that fancy with the actual image. Now, I know you can get pretty fancy with this, and oftentimes we do, right? That's that's how we, you know, we love art and we love getting into it and into the details. But I would say that the most important thing with what we do as artists is the storytelling. It's the thinking process. That is what takes time. It's knowing what to actually draw than the actual drawing part. Once you figure out the what, the how is really easy. You know what I mean? So how to actually do something, the execution of it will flow easier once you know exactly what you need, okay? And that's the decision process that we need as storytellers. That's really what's gonna set us aside and make you know, our signature style come out as storytellers. All right, I do wanna give a significant amount of time for questions here, because I think with this tech stuff, the discussion with this is gonna be really awesome. And as I bring up some of these questions, I'm gonna have a sip, so pardon me as I have a sip of my drink here. All right, cool. Let's see. This is funny. Yeah, it's insane. I'm so proud of seeing your work after seeing it teased for so long. Are you talking about me, my friend? You haven't seen my work out there? Well, I encourage you to go check out the Drawing a Portfolio Challenge. You're gonna see a lot of my work there. You might be talking about somebody else, so I don't want I don't want to jump on a discussion that you're having with somebody in the chat room. Okay, this is cool. I will just say this as an update. I'm way behind in the challenge, but I'm still catching up because I've used Sergio's lessons before and I love them. Hey, thank you, Scooby. I really appreciate that. If you're behind, my friend, I'm also behind on catching up to your comments. So forgive me for that. I promise to get to it as soon as possible, okay? So let's go on to some other questions here. Oh yeah, this is really true. So if you guys are interested in signing up, I really encourage you to sign up by tomorrow, by midnight. This is the last and final day we're gonna have for registration because we have to finish this course. So I almost forgot about that. Thank you for reminding us here, Dara. Awesome. Okay, this is great. So Chris is saying Wacom 1 is the new release this year. It's like a portable Cintiq drawing display. Very cool. If it's portable and hopefully it's lightweight and hopefully it's cheap. The Wacom stuff is on the expensive tip. I know that. So hopefully there can be some discounts. Maybe there are some discounts for Lightbox Expo, right? Maybe you guys could tell us if you've gone to the Wacom booth and if they have any kind of discounts for, you know, the participants here. That would be one thing to do to invest in something for the future. I'm not sure if they do like a Black Friday discount in November. That's something you might want to ask them as well. You can usually find some deals for software and everything there. Even Adobe Photoshop, the Adobe CC version, where with the Creative Cloud, you can get with us. If you follow us in Storyboard Art, we can give you guys a student discount there for at least for the first year. If you're a new subscriber, I think you get it for maybe $15 or $19 a month instead of the full $30 a month. And that's a really good, you know, just a break if you're just starting out there too. Okay. This is great. This is a good comment here. Dom Waffles is saying, for on the go, I have a Samsung Galaxy Tab, which is great budget tablet for sketching. Great. That's awesome. I love that. I love that there are options nowadays. Before, I remember you had to really like drop a couple $1,000s for something portable that you can actually draw on. And it was really clunky back then and, you know, really heavy. And, you know, the battery lasted like 10 minutes. Now these things can be really, really powerful and more accessible for everything that we're doing. All right, cool. So let me see what else we have here in this chat and we'll go through some of these questions. Yeah, I love this. Let me bring this comment up here from Kevin. You can get those used for very cheap, referring to some of the equipment that we have here, and they work great. I have one that's 12 years old, and if I don't feel like it's hunching over, it's great. You know, I will use equipment until it dies on me. I mean, my phones are always pretty old, and my friends get on me for, you know, I used to have a computer that was like 7 or 8 years old, and it was like, you know, it still worked. So why replace it? So the same thing with equipment. If you can still get by and it works fine, it's not like overheating or it's not really slow, then you can, you can get by with that stuff. So, oh, this is great. Yeah, Wacom used to, oh, sorry, Wacom used to is bundled with the software still if you register it. Okay, so cool. If you get a used one, that would be great. Ooh, this is a great comment from JC here. John Claude is saying, yeah, honestly, iPencil for me puts the Wacom pen to shame in terms of how sensitive it is, and the pressure is amazing. Wow, interesting. Do you guys feel the same way? I've been using this for so many years that I'm pretty sure that the Apple Pen, a lot of people have told me, I have a friend who works at Apple who's trying to get me to use that. And, I agree, like the technology there is really, really great. And, I might make that switch eventually. But for now, like I said, if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it. Okay. So I'm going to stick with my Wacom screen that I have for now. All right. The big thing here is don't be afraid of technology. Don't be afraid to jump in here and do stuff and experiment with things. You really don't need that much money to get started. And once you get started, then you can figure out what you want. It's like if you're going to buy like a new car and you're like a new driver, if you've never had a license before and all of a sudden you're going to get a Ferrari, that doesn't make any sense. You get a starter car, you get a little beater car, and then you learn how to drive. And then when you become a race car driver and you have the money, then you buy a Ferrari, right? So same thing with this. Until you work your way up into becoming a pro, stick with something simple. And then that's what you want to be doing. So I do want to bring up Juliana's comment here. MetaBang can work on tablets, computers, or phones, and is completely free and has a cloud I recommend for all my beginning artists. Wow, cool. Thanks for that tip. If you have a link, that would be great too, so we can pass that to each other. All right. Question from Jake here. This will be my first time buying a tablet or monitor for doing digital art or animation. Do you recommend getting a Wacom One small Cintiq or a larger Intuos Pro? I'm going to give you my opinion, and it's just my opinion, so I hope that other people will comment as well. My personal opinion is that you get a Wacom complete computer, because I think that Wacom One, if it's the Cintiq replacement, that's also going to run either Windows. Yeah, I think they only run Windows, but that's fine because you can run the full program of CC. If you get an Intuos Pro like tablet, you're going to have to either have a laptop or something else with it, and it just gets a little more clunky to carry around 2 or 3 like devices. You need like a bag. It gets heavy. You got to plug everything in. There's all these wires. It's harder to work like tight spaces like a coffee shop or on location if you're on a set. So these are things that you want to consider before you buy. If you can afford it, I would say just get one thing that's pretty complete. And like I said, you might want to check out as well. Whoa, there goes my pen. Give me a sec. Oh, here it is. You might want to check out as well this Microsoft Surface Pro. And there goes the pen. Okay. At any rate, this is the computer I recommend as a competitor to Wacom. That's probably a little bit cheaper than that. Or again, if you're like strapped for cash, try this one. This is an older version. You get it used, you'd be fine. All right, it's a little bit heavier. No big deal. You can carry that around, right? Okay, let me put this away. So hopefully, that's just my opinion. I hope you guys are also chiming in and letting Jake know what you guys recommend. So do your research on that, Jake, and search around and see if you can get the best deal as well. Cool. This is great tip here from Sean. iPad Pros also support external storage and HDMI out. All right, that's good to know because you need to be able to store a lot of information sometimes or see video reference. And you kind of want to have an external storage device. And also an HDMI out is great if you want to show a presentation. I know you can do like the AirDrop or whatever it is on the Apple thing, which will beam your video to a monitor. But if Wi-Fi is not available, you can plug something in and you have that ability to have a second monitor there. Cool. Thanks, Dom. I love this. You're answering Jake's question here. Get the Cintiq, having a display to draw on, even if it's small, I feel it's a little more helpful. I agree with you on that one, Dom. I think, Jake, think hard about it. But the one-to-one connection with you drawing on a monitor and just being able to like directly see your stroke and not have to feel that disconnect. There is a little bit of disconnect if you're using one of these, just portable tablets here that you're looking at your monitor, but you're drawing you're drawing this way, and there's a little bit of disconnect. I mean, you can get over it. It's no big deal. But yeah, it's sometimes hard. That's one thing that I would say, if you can afford it, get a complete one package there. This is great. Thank you, Sean, for this. Again, there is Photoshop for iPad, which is nice, but it doesn't have the full feature set yet. But they're adding new functionality all the time. Yeah, that's cool. I think, there will be a time in the future when the full, the power of these apps will almost compete with the full desktop versions. Pardon me as I have another sip of my drink. All right. This is a great question. Aloka2000, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Good to see you again. I love using the iPad Pro for drawing, but love editing and doing animatics on Storyboard Pro on the PC. Does anybody have a nice workflow where you sync up the drawings directly into Storyboard Pro? You're referring to Toon Boom, I'm assuming. To do animatics, the way that I've done it, and especially at a studio like Lucasfilm, what we did was we created the storyboards, and even in animatic form, we created the storyboards inside Toon Boom, and then we exported those movie files to the editorial department, and those guys brought those into an editing program like Avid, or you could use Premiere, for example. But it is a separate editing program, and that way you can do a lot more sophisticated editing effects. So to sync it up, basically it's just an export, and I think you can also export an EDL, which is an edit decision list, which theoretically you can import that into your editing program, and everything lines up just like it should, right? It's all connected that way. So that's theoretically how it should work. Sometimes I just export the movie files and have to re-edit those things inside the editing program, right? Cool. Oh, this is a great question here. When is the deadline for submitting my work and the portfolio review? Well, the only thing that we have available now is the Drawing and Portfolio Challenge. So the deadline for that would be tomorrow, Sunday, before midnight, before we close the registration for that. Now, if you're asking about the portfolio review event, we had that last night. I encourage you to see the replay. Go to our YouTube channel, and you can see what we did there. We had hundreds and hundreds of submissions. Unfortunately, we did not get to all of them, but we had a good chunk, and I think the discussion was really on point with that. So you might want to check that out on our YouTube page. Cool. Here's a question from G Castro 3D. Is there a difference between Sketchbook and Sketchbook Pro, or is it just Sketchbook now? Are you refer? So there is some confusion, and I get it. Let me just share my screen here, and I'll see if I can alleviate some of this confusion with that. So I always get these terms mixed up as well. So let me see if I can somewhat alleviate the confusion. There are two different programs here. This is Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, okay? Storyboard Pro, not Sketchbook Pro. So Storyboard Pro. Now this program, which is Autodesk Sketchbook, this used to be called Autodesk Sketchbook Pro, right? They dropped the Pro and they just called it Sketchbook, all right? So now this program is called Autodesk Sketchbook. Sometimes when I'm talking fast, I say, sign up to Toon Boom Sketchbook. And like, wait a minute, it's not called Toon Boom Sketchbook, it's called Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, all right? So anyway, I get this mixed up. So just so you know that these are two different programs here. This one is Autodesk, and this one is Toon Boom, and they do two different things. So I just wanted to clear that up because I think that is, that's something that to me throws me off a lot, especially when I end up doing these talks and these kinds of things. So hopefully that answers your question. Autodesk Sketchbook is kind of hopefully what you're referring to there. All right. Good question here from Dutch Girl Gaming. I have Toon Boom Harmony, student license. Is it worth it also to buy Toon Boom Storyboard Pro? You know, Harmony, as far as I know, is an animation program. So you can do 2D animation. I think you can also do 3D in there somewhat. Storyboard Pro, Toon Boom Storyboard Pro is a storyboard specific workflow interface. I think you can possibly do the storyboards inside of Harmony, but it's difficult to animate inside of Storyboard Pro because it's kind of panel to panel. I think both of those programs are interchangeable. Like, for example, you can export files from one to the other. So it all depends on what you're going to use it for. If you're going to do storyboard specific work, you might want to sign up to the student version of Storyboard Pro. I think if I remember correctly, the student version of Storyboard Pro is actually really affordable. It's probably less than $10. I think it's like $9, $9.99 or something like that, which is pretty good deal for a subscription software on the student version. So you might want to check that out. Okay, cool. Question here from Henry. Hopefully you guys can answer this. Wonder if OpenTunes can also work as a good program. I've heard good things about OpenTunes. Do you guys have any experience with this stuff? Hopefully there are a couple people. So maybe you can give us your thoughts, and we'll see that. We'll see what that's like. But I have not used that program myself. I love it. Thank you for this, Beth. Wacom has some kind of discount code, so jump over to their table and to get some of that, save some dough. So the table that we're speaking of is at Lightbox Expo. You have to be registered to the Lightbox Expo page, and then go to the Artist Alley section. And I think if you scroll down there, you can find us. You can find a bunch of talented artists, and also I think you can find Wacom as well. All right, thanks for that. Great questions here. I'm just scrolling through the chat. This is awesome that we're having this kind of discussion. Yeah. This is a good question for Dom. I heard there's a possibility of getting a student license for Storyboard Pro through here. Is that true? Yes, you have to be registered to one of our courses. So this is why I recommend, we have a free course going on now for Lightbox Expo. So sign up. I'm a broken record here. And that way, what you want to do is show your Storyboarder account, and we can also help you out if you have any issues with Toon Boom. We've been in contact with them a couple times, and basically I think all you need to show is that you are a student in some kind of program, and they will extend that student discount to you. I think that's the way it worked. Now I haven't done that personally, so you guys help me out on that for those that are looking to get it. Cool. We get great. This is also a really good one. Let me bring this up here too. From Kim Yui, I think it is. Is Storyboard app a good option for learning before you invest in more expensive options? Oh, I forgot to mention that program. I have not used that too many times. I am familiar with Storyboarder app. So it's a storyboard specific software. It is also free. And to answer your question, yes, absolutely, download that. If it's free, why not try it? I suggest you try Autodesk Sketchbook, that's free. Download Blender, that's also free. And then try this Storyboarder app, try them all and see how you like it. See which one works well. Speaking of student license and free, you can also get a free license for Maya in the student version. And a number of other programs offer student and trial offers. So you want to do that. That's a really good way to try some of these software packages out before you invest some money in those things. Okay, cool. Hey, Joe, what's happening, my friend? Good to see you, buddy. This is a great comment for you. Let me bring this up. You're saying, when I was in the mentorship, yes, we miss you, my friend. I found issues submitting my assignments in Sketchbook Pro PSD files from my iPad and later being opened in Photoshop. So understanding compatibility between systems is important when sharing work. We eventually found a solution. Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, that might be some kind of bug from, let's say, the tablet version to the desktop version. Theoretically, a PSD file should be universal. So I don't know what the issue was there, but it's awesome that you're pointing that out. Yeah, be careful with that as well. Just like in general, make sure the file formats that you use are pretty universal. If you have anything with layers, I think a TIFF file can also be exported from Sketchbook, Autodesk Sketchbook, and then that can be imported in most any program, even Photoshop. I think Storyboard Pro, all of that there too. Cool. All right, we got a drawing portfolio challenge question. I'll bring this up too because it's helping me with these updates. So you're saying, all right, I'm glad you're liking the course. Is it okay to turn in homework number 1 for the lenses with homework number 2? Look forward to the mentorship. Yeah, buddy. All right. Yes, absolutely. If you're doing lessons 1 and 2, and then 3 is also available right now. If you're doing all of the work from that, you want to turn it in as a group, go for it. We'll have everybody look at it, and I encourage you guys to post post these things in the Facebook group so that we can all see and we can all learn together. That's part of what we want to do in this course for that. All right. Let me bring up this question. This is a good question for sure. Pardon me as I take a drink. What approach should a foreign non-US citizen take to break into union animation studios in the US? This is a common question. I think hopefully you guys have some answers for this too. The real problem with coming from a foreign country and working in the US market is one, getting a visa and applying. And this is why I say you have to have a really strong portfolio and really show that you can do the work. And so you're going to be a really strong candidate. And if you apply to any of these studios, they know all these studios are very familiar with, visa issues and non-US citizens. They will sponsor a visa for you, and then you can come over. And there's a bunch of paperwork that you have to do, but it is possible. I know many artists that I've worked with who are foreigners, and they've gone through that. And it's, I wouldn't say it's easy. There's a couple hoops you have to jump through, but it is certainly possible. When you're talking about union animation studios, here's what happens if you get hired by those studios. So if the studio selects your work and they interview you and they offer you a contract, they offer you a job to work for them, you automatically get accepted into the union. So you would have to start paying the union dues, of course, but then you're automatically in the animation union. That applies to studios that are union, of course. So I think most of the studios in LA are union. And I think generally speaking, most of the studios outside of LA are non-union, okay? Either way, the union has some benefits. For some people, they could also represent some disadvantages because they don't want representation from the union. So I still say, the most important thing is you only get what you negotiate. So you want to make sure that you are, you're giving yourself a competitive rate when you're talking to these studios, and you know how to apply so that whether you're union or non-union, you can have a good competitive salary. Okay. Now, it does not matter that you are not part of the union to be able to apply to the US animation studios. Okay. Does that make sense? So you don't have to suddenly, try and get yourself into the union first. What you want to do first is have a really strong portfolio, get a job interview, and then actually get the offer from the companies, then get hired, and then all that union stuff gets sorted out. Okay. Hopefully that makes some sense there too. Great. Let me see. Wow, there's a ton of really good conversation going on in the chat here. And let me see. I lost the last one that I want to bring up here. Yeah, this is great. Let me answer Jane's comment here. Hopefully you guys can also chime in and help everybody out who has these questions, because I'm sure if you have a question, many other people have the same question. So Jane is asking, how do you pick jobs? What are the jobs that has animation career to climb up to within the studios instead of the hustle after hustle? Let me think about this. Let me sum your question first of all. Like, how do you pick a job that, are you saying that is somewhat a straightforward track into, getting into the industry, right? Or actually, growing in a career? To me personally, I don't know how you do it without hustling. If you don't have hustle, I mean, it's just like, what do I mean by that? It's like there is no magic pill. There's no magic job that's going to get you your foot in the door and all of a sudden you're set for the rest of your career. I think it should be said, and I really want to be honest with you guys here. My experience has been that you always have to be on top of the industry trends. You always have to be very aware of your place in the whole animation and entertainment industry, so that you know how to place yourself as an artist. You know how to compete as an artist. And you also should be strategically thinking about what your job position is today and what your goals are for the future. So if you land a job, there's no guarantee that you're going to keep that job. And there's no guarantee that you're ever going to move up or do anything with more responsibility or have a pay raise. What you need to do is take action, take control, and take responsibility for your own career goals and start figuring out where it is that you want to be. And then you work towards those goals. Because if you eventually want to be going into supervising and directing things, which is a common career path for story artists, then you have to figure out how to get there and how that path should be laid down. And for every artist, it's going to be totally different. So when you say hustle, instead of doing the hustle, that probably means you don't like that part of the job. But I would spin this and say it's more about knowing how to market yourself, how to position yourself as a quality candidate. That's something that you should not ever eliminate from your job search or for just your career in general. Okay, that's just my advice there. The reason I say that is because if you get complacent with whatever job you're working at, that's when things start to slide and you might feel, honestly, I've seen it many times. You really get lazy. You feel like, I made it. Now I'm in the studio. I don't have to work as hard anymore. And that's really not the truth. You really have to earn your job every single day that you're at these companies and you're working on these projects, because that's how you're going to maintain a high level of quality, and you're going to work at a really high level and produce some quality work that people are going to want to see and want to work with you over and over again with that. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense there. Cool. Great, I love this. Now everything goes with these questions here, so I'm just taking comments as they come in. This one from Kate: how fast is the work pace for a professional in storyboarding? How many panels should storyboarders be able to create in a day? If I had a nickel for every time I get that question, I'd be a wealthy man. Let me see if I can answer this question again, because it comes up often a lot. There is no set number of panels that you should be able to do in a day. I always say quality over quantity, and work as fast as you can without sacrificing the quality or the story point of the project that you're working on. Okay, does that make sense? Now, there is no should, so I would give you averages. I can tell you what I can do sometimes, but that doesn't mean you're going to be the same. I know people that can just motor through hundreds of panels a day, or I know other artists that spend 10 to 20 panels a day, but it's like real magic, that they really put their heart and soul into making those things amazing. And it all varies for the type of project that you're doing, and it all varies for the quality level and the result that you're going for those projects. So I usually like to think of this question in terms of script pages or amount of work that needs to be done on a deadline. And I remember one job that we did with a crew of artists, and we had to do some video game storyboard cinematics, and we had to do 45 script pages in 9 days. I believe that was, for those of you guys who worked on that job, let me remind me how that was. Now, if you guys know anything about working on script, that was incredibly, incredibly fast. And we had a ton of guys. I think we had like 12 artists on that job to get it done. Okay, so it's really what the project entails, and what we had to do is we had to simplify a lot of things to get that amount of work out the door. And so you can't put as much polish, and so it really depends on what the project needs in order to be able to do that stuff. So my suggestion to all of you guys who are getting into this is work on quality. Make sure that everything you produce is awesome. It really you've solved the story point, your drawings are really solid, the perspective is really good, nothing is really sketchy or just just brushed in there. You really have made a thoughtful decision about everything that's in your composition, right? And then you can start working on speed after that, and you will get faster eventually, right? All right, let me bring up some more questions. Whew, this is great. This is an awesome discussion that we're having here. This is a good general question. This actually has a lot to do with what we've been talking about today in this talk. So the artist learns here is asking, and I don't think this is an odd question, my friend. Any tips on how to avoid drawing related injuries such as carpal tunnel? I've gotten injured boarding once. Oh man, that sucks. Nothing to laugh about there. Okay, I don't know what your particular injury was, but the first thing you want to do is have a good setup. And I didn't mention this with the equipment, but one thing you really need is a good desk and a quality chair, okay? And you don't have to spend a lot of money on a chair. I think, a good quality office desk and chair you can get relatively cheap on Amazon. And again, look for used deals out there. But you want something that's comfortable, right? That you're going to be able to sit in for hours at a time and not have back problems or shoulder problems and that kind of thing. This is why I have my Cintiq monitor on an arm here. I can adjust it to any angle. And the other thing that I do, I always like to use a pen. So I avoid as much as possible using the mouse, and I hate keyboard shortcuts. That's a personal pet peeve of mine. I just don't like to type on the keyboard. I'd rather have everything on my screen. I've set up my Wacom buttons so that they do all the shortcuts I need, and everything is concentrated on my monitor. So I'm always just looking at my monitor, and that way I just, I can flow a lot easier, right? And there's a ton of buttons that are on both sides of the modern Wacom screen. So that's something that you can really do. So that's one of the things I suggest. The other one is make sure that you're in a comfortable position when you're drawing, and that you avoid going to the mouse. The mouse is like a killer for most guys. I have my mouse here. That's a total killer for most guys who are they're doing a lot of computer work. That's usually where the repetitive stress injury comes in, and you get the carpal tunnel stuff, right? So hopefully you guys also have some other tips for that. And I think it is actually a really important thing, because that's something that we suffer with when we're doing work. Thank you. This one's cool. Hey, Christian is saying, I would say if you really want to I would say if you really want to amp up your game, you really need to go digital, period. You cannot compete professionally being in a non-digital, in my opinion. I agree with you. I'm glad that you said it so boldly like that, because really think about it. You have hundreds and thousands of artists out there in the world that all want to be doing story work. And there's actually plenty of work for all of us. But if you're in the pool of artists and you're still drawing on paper, and you can't quickly, deliver your services to somebody because your internet connection is slow, and you're not strong with emails and stuff like that, you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage. Go digital, get a setup. I'm one of the guys who was resistant back in the day. When I landed at Pixar, the first thing they put in front of me was a Cintiq, and I was like, I've never used this thing before. What do I do? But let me tell you, I didn't tell anybody that. I wasn't like, I'm not going to work at Pixar because I've never done a Cintiq. I was doing all pencil and paper back then. And then, guess what? I learned that thing really quick. So that's what, we need to be upgraded nowadays to make sure that we're on point and we're being competitive. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for this. Zach also had a similar question with the wrist and elbow injuries. I was wondering how to avoid RSI, repetitive stress injury, through long hours of work too. Anybody else have any tips on that? I mean, certainly you can, one thing I like to do is get up out of my chair, take breaks every once in a while. I like to exercise regularly too. So, stretch out, get out, get some sunshine, walk around, take a jog. So that way, if your body is out of shape, your bones and your joints are going to start to hurt just because you're not in good shape. It doesn't matter if you're just drawing and it's not that physically demanding. Okay. Oh, cool. This is great. In Finland, they're just saying you are the blacksmith of your own success. I love it. That's really great. Thank you for sharing. And let's see. And this is a real easy question. Benjamin, hey, Sergio, if we're beginners for storyboarding, would it still be possible to take the free course? Yes, absolutely. And can we give some encouragement to this awesome artist here, Benjamin, for being brave and wanting to get into this stuff, even though you're a beginner? Man, this is why we have a free course. It's free, because we want you to learn this stuff. And if you've never done it, well, this is the chance to do it. Other people charge you to actually get into their courses, and they're not even that related to storytelling. Like, we're telling you from the horse's mouth what you need to do. So I recommend that you get into this and you figure it out. We want people. This is why we want good storytellers. Like, that's one of my personal goals. I don't like seeing bad movies. I don't like seeing bad stories. I want to see people who are into what they're doing and they really enjoy making quality work. So we're building the next generation of awesome storytellers out there. Let me see here. Cedar, let me see if I get this this question up here. Wow, this is unfortunate comment you have here. I get bad RSI from sculpture. I usually wear a brace on my right hand whenever I can, particularly when doing tedious work that doesn't need as much detail. Yeah, you know, I don't know what type of sculpture that you're doing, but any kind of repetitive stress injury will come from obviously doing things that are straining and hurting your muscles over and over again. Like even musicians, like a pianist and stuff, can also suffer from repetitive stress injury. So posture is really important. You know, getting regular exercise is important. So all of those things are big deals when it comes to doing work. Awesome, guys. We're almost to the end of this chat. So I want to answer the last couple questions, and we're going to sign off for today. We do have another chat coming up later on this evening. So, so I hope you guys can join us for that. All right, the artist learns here is asking, what kind of tablet are you using, Sergio? I asked because I'm currently using a Wacom 21UX on an ARM, but I find that it's heavy warping my my table. Would it be a matter of table quality? Yeah, man, I think I used to have a 21UX for many years, and that thing never died on me. It was really a real quality piece of equipment, so I wouldn't think of replacing that. You know, it's much cheaper to replace a desk and get something really solid. You know, just get something that's like, you know, pretty. It's going to support the type of weight that you need, and you know, like the IKEA stuff is sometimes like disposable furniture, right? You might want to look on Amazon or some other resources, or go find something that's used, but it's like quality wood and it's like really good construction. You know, sometimes all you need is just a big like slab of like a, you know, some supports and a big like tabletop slab, and that's all you need to put your stuff on there. But the Cintiq is really the important thing, and figure out what kind of desk you can to get to support that stuff. I use a 24. I think it's the 24 Cintiq Touch. I forgot what model it was exactly, but it's the 24-inch touch version. Great, I love this. This is a cool. This is probably a good question to end on. Let me bring it up here from Aloka 2000. What are the most important things to keep in mind when boarding action sequences? Any good resources to help with choreography? I'm particularly inspired by Genndy Tartakovsky's pacing. Yeah, man, there's a couple of things that you want to think about with action. We cover that a lot in the Animation Mentor. I'm sorry, the Animation Mentor. I'm getting confused with all the things that we're talking about in the Story Artist Mentorship. That's what we're talking about. And with action scenes, what you really want to be thinking about is what your point is in the actual scene, and what you have to sell there. And then all of the nitty gritty of where you're going to do with the camera, you know, what the choreography is with the characters, all of that stuff should take second place to the purpose of the sequence. Okay, that's the first thing. The next thing you want to do is make sure you're doing a really interesting and awesome variety of camera work and camera angles. So you have shots that are wide shots, medium shots, close-ups, and then you're cutting back and forth for all of those things. With action work, you really want to make sure that your pacing and your staging is really sharp. It's really interesting. It's really creative. So as your characters are going through your scene, just like if you're doing a fight scene, don't just have your characters fight static in front of the camera. Move your characters through that set and have them jump in and out of trees if they're fighting like that, or if they're in an interior, that they move from one room to the other. Maybe they break through the wall and they go from one room that way to the other. And then the camera is going to have to follow them through that. And you create exciting opportunities for you to shoot your sequence that way. Now, as far as resources, when it comes to doing action sequence, the first thing I would tell you is watch film references. Watch the movies that you like, and study those things. See why you like them, and see, you know, how the camera work is, how the pacing is, how fast they're cutting from one shot to another. And then the last thing I'll say about action scenes is don't forget your insert shots. Okay, so a lot of people do an action scene, they'll cut, and then it just goes back to a wide shot. But don't forget about any kind of impact or any kind of reaction shots or a punch in. Like if somebody is fighting and you give a guy a punch, I would actually punch in, literally. I would move the camera in closer to that close-up, and you have that fist hitting the other person, for example, and you do that in a close-up, and then it's a really quick shot, but then you pull out wide and you see the reaction of what happens, and the guy falls back, and, you know, he gets knocked out, you know, gets knocked on his feet, right? So don't forget about insert shots. So those are just a couple quick tips. I would recommend if you're really into doing action stuff, you know, just watch your good films and watch your movies, And I think in the mentorship, that was like module 4 when we got into doing really heavy action. And we continue that throughout the whole thing. All right, my friends, this is really has been a really great discussion, and I really appreciate a lot of the questions and a lot of the participation from everybody that's part of what we're doing. I will remind everybody that what you want to be doing in Lightbox here is connecting with other people. So before we sign off, you guys should all exchange contact information, exchange your Instagram, your Facebook, any kind of social media. If you have a website, go ahead and chat that in there. And this will be recorded in our chat, and that'll get posted to YouTube as the replay. So I'll remind you guys what's coming up. Let's look on the schedule here. We got another awesome live stream coming at 7 p.m. That's where I'm going to invite my good buddy Wahab, and we're going to have a really cool story Q&A discussion. So if you didn't get any of your questions answered right now, or you have more things that you're thinking about storytelling wise, that's going to be the talk that we want to look to, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that Wahab is a wonderful story artist and a great comic writer and story artist as well. So we're going to have a good time with that one. That's coming up later today at 7 p.m. Pacific time. All right, my friends. Thank you for joining me today, and we will see you on the next one coming up. Good luck on all your projects, and I will see you guys really soon. Okay, take care, fellas.